Hi. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to read and write to a SQL Lite database using .NET MAUI. Using .NET 8 in this particular video, but I'm following directions from .NET 6, so it probably work in nearly any variety. What I have to begin with is I have a working MVVM app. So here it is in my emulator. I put a name in here. Pick a date. It's got a date picker there. Add strikes, add balls. You see my totals go up. Not overly exciting. When I hit new picture, it says, do you want to clear it? Yes. And it goes away. If I do it again, and I say no, it stays. I have a stats page that I'll load up eventually, which will have my player names, game dates, and number of pitches they've thrown there. As mentioned, this particular app is fully MVVM, so I have a models folder, a view models folder, and a views folder. And if you look at my model, it inherits off I notify property change. I notify for each one of these properties I change. I have a view model that's got a number of commands: add ball, add strike, new pitcher, and they do what you would expect. And on my main page, everything's bound. I've bound to my local. I create a binding context on my main page, and I use it on each object I need. All right, so that's the setup. If you're trying to do this and you don't know what MVVM is, you might want to step back and take a look at that before you come back to this video. All right, so let's talk about how to put this in. I'm going to go to my NuGet package manager. I prefer the visual one. And I need to go find some things. Looking for SQL Lite net. And I spelled SQL Lite wrong. There's just one L in SQL Lite. There we go. We need this Frank Kruger one. I don't know who Frank is, but he does a nice job writing databases. I'm going to install it. I also need this one down below it, SQL Lite Net PCL. And then I need a third one. SQL Lite's PCL raw. And I need this one. The three of them I picked will make it work across Windows, iOS, and Android. All right, I'm going to clean my project. It'll make my next run a little slow, but I found it helps sometimes when I'm adding a whole bunch of NuGet packages to clean it up before I run again. Okay, so with that done, I now need to start modifying my pitcher class. I need to make it turn into a table. So I'm going to go to my pitcher class. I'm going to add any using. That's one of the add-ins I just added. I'm going to turn my entire class into a table using an annotation. You have one database on your device in SQLite, and you just keep adding tables to it. This is typically how it works. Just be careful that you don't repeat a name. If you're worried about overwriting somebody else's name, then you could affix your project name in front of it. Something like that. I'm going to keep it simple. And then I'm going to add a primary key, because all tables must have a primary key. Some database teacher somewhere probably told you that. I'm going to make it auto increment. And I'm just calling it ID. Works for me. And then each one of my tables down here, these now all become, each one of these properties each become fields. You can apply any type of constraints you want. Like you can do like a max length, 100 characters for max length, which is way long for a person's name. You don't have to put those in, but you can. You can put, between plus or minuses, a variety of constraints here. Okay, so our table's set up. We now need to have the view model write it out to disk. So I'm going to go to my view model. I'm going to have to add a couple of items here. I definitely need SQL Lite up here. I need link as well, which I have. So I'm going to add in SQL Lite. I've got my models in for my project, and I got the component model, which I needed for MVVM. A few other things we added, and I'll slide up and show you those in a moment. So make sure your class is public, otherwise weird things happen. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong file. Yeah, I'm in the wrong file. We're going to add a new class. I'm sorry. Add a new class. We're going to call it Picture Database. Public it. That's what pointed me out being the wrong class. I need SQL up here. I also need a couple of these other objects. Name my projects. Models. Using system component model. Okay, so a public class picture database, I'm going to have a connection. One L SQL Lite. Con is my connection. I'm going to write it to a path. I'm going to make it private. The defaults to it, I prefer to have them in there. We have an init function that's going to initialize this particular connection. And it's pretty straightforward. If the connection is null, build it. We'll set the path elsewhere in a couple minutes, actually. So I'm here going to create the table, and I'm going to create a picture. So that'll create a table based on the model inside my picture.cs file. If you've worked with tools like Jackson and other tools that read JSON, this is pretty standard where you're able to read and write classes into data structures and to long-term storage. I'm now going to build a constructor for this. So I'm not going to do the default one. I'm going to pass in a string. This will be the DB path. I'm going to set the DB path. So when I call this particular database, which I'll do in another file, this will initialize where the database lives. And I'm going to write it into the secure settings of the device so that other people can't easily access it. All right, so this now writes a new insert button. So we're going to write out the database. I'm calling it insert picture because if you know SQL, adding to databases insert into. I'm writing a new picture out. Results can be held whether or not it works or not. I'm going to call init here, just to make sure my database is written out. I'm going to make sure that I have a name, because I have to have a name to write this out. If it's empty, I'm going to throw an exception. It's going to die at this point. Otherwise, so I'm going to insert that into the new database. I've got this in a try catch, so I'll catch. I'm just going to catch any exceptions here. And I'm going to do an await and yell at you. Basic button. Okay, so we started to set up our write-outs. We build a connection. We have yet to deal with that yet, but I will. And then I yell at you if it doesn't work. Okay, so now we need to make our application read this. So I'm going to go to our MAUI program CS. And this is what builds our project. And we're going to add this before our return build.build. We're going to add more to this objects. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write to the file system here. So I've just created a database called picture.db3. So I'm going to add a singleton here. In this singleton, we'll call picture database. And so use a lambda. I'll press enter so you can see this. Semicolon. All right, so these lines of code modify the project so that I use the system app directory and I create the database file called picture.db3 and I add databases to the project here by adding this activity utilities and create the instance of that database. So it makes my project read my database. And now I'm going to initialize my database using my main page MAUI. Oh, I'm in the wrong place. Hang on a second. I'm sorry. There we go. That's a great page. I need to modify my app. This is the program that instantiates the project when it begins. I'm going to modify this to accept a couple things. So when you use my view models, why can't I drop that in? Okay, so use my view models. I got my namespace, and here's my app, and I'm going to modify to have a reference to my picture database. So I basically created a property called pitch database. I'm going to call my constructor here. I'm modifying this. And then after my main page, I'll make my database live. Now, all this sets up my database. I now need to go to my main page and start writing. So if I go to my main page, I have this reset button. That's where I want to write out. When I'm done, I'm going to write out there. I could write out every time I change, but then I'd have to run updates instead of inserts. So that's the new picture command, which is in my picture view model. I'm going down. If I'm saving it, I'm going to write it out right here. So I'm going to write out the picture. Okay, so at this point, we'll run it, see if it catches fire. All right, so it's working at this point. So I got a couple people in here. I'll hit new picture. Yes. And it should be written out to disk. So now we got to figure out how to read it back in. So I already have my page set up for this, my stats page. I have essentially a grid set up, and I'm going to turn this into a bound list. So I'm going to read this thing I'm going to edit my picture database, and I'm going to create a new function here called get pictures. Let's return so it's going to be a function called get pictures. It's going to read from my disk. Hopefully read from the database. So pick up any exceptions here, and it's essentially the same exception we have down here. I'm going to do a wait async up here. Pretty much anytime you're reading to and from a disk, you should async because you don't know how long it's going to take. We're calling it just in case, and since it's already been declared, it won't overwrite anything. Now that one line there returns it back out to list. This is using a language called LINQ, L-I-N-Q. You should look it up. And if it doesn't find anything, I'm going to return a blank list. That should make this stop yelling at me. Okay, get rid of the async. Oh, it's happy. Okay, and I'll get rid of the await. So I've got an ability to read the pictures. So now let's do something with this. Go to my stats page. I already have my title set up. I need to turn this into a collection view. Now, we did this earlier on the quarter. I'll do it again. The names will become really important here, so I know what it is. Picture list. All right. So it's my collection view. And what inside this collection view is I need to pull this into a data template. This grid becomes my data templates. So I'm going to add in here a collection item. So this is an item template. And the item template. And then you turn this into data template. So theoretically, when I read my picture list and bind it to here, it'll use these columns to fill my data in. So I'm going to call this method in the code behind and create a new function called fill the list. I could have done this a variety of ways. I just created just in a button. I'm going to need to add in my using using mobile. It's already up there. Good. All right, so this thing reads the button. And I'm going to add this to my button on my screen. My stats page. Okay, let's see if it works. Here they are, except I get just the names back. All right, so let's fix that. What I need to do is I need to get rid of this. I need to get rid of this here. So I need to bind here. Let's hard reload that. There they are. I've got some formatting problems, but it definitely gets it back. We'll see if it writes out and reads back in. So I'm going to say Joe Ball. Pitched. We'll put him last week. He had a good game. Print him out. Yes, stats. Show the pictures. There they are. What I want to do is I want to show them in proper order. I want to show them in date order. So in order to do so, I'm going to go back into my stats. And I'm going to use link here. Link is like SQL, but it's built into SQL Server. So if I may get the picture, get pictures function, and I'm going to modify this. So instead of simply sending back the list, I'm going to call in an order by. And use a lambda. So this is link. This is essentially sort. I can also do filters and all sorts of really cool stuff that you're used to in SQL using link. LINQ. You want to look that up. So now when I put that in there, and I got my stats, I show the pictures, they're in date order. Okay. So you've seen how to read and write to a database. Thanks for watching. Good luck.